is how to calculate my STRS pension benefit. And let me stress that I'm going to show a kind of a general example, actually directly out of the CalSTRS Benefits Member Handbook right here, which is your 2009-2010. They don't have the 2010-2011 book out yet. And just as I'm doing this, I would say that there are a lot of good publications because you can get all this stuff online. I mean, a lot of what I'm doing today I got directly out of the CalSTRS manual and booklets so that I could quote you directly what I'm saying. That's what a lot of my notes are. Okay, we're going to take Mary. And Mary is retiring at 60. She has 24.20 years of service. So her age factor, because she's 60, is 2%. And I can tell you later if you want what your calculation is, but that's what CalSTRS uses at 60. So it's the 2%. And her final compensation for a total of the last 36 months is $140,000, because if you have less than 25 years of service, they use your highest 36 months. So if we take that $140,000 over the 36 months, that works out to $3,888.89 a month times that 2%, and what that works, and then you multiply that times 24 and those years, and what that works out to be, doing the math, is her benefit's going to be $1,886.11. Another way to look at this is this would be, what, 48? So she's going to be getting, you multiply that 2 times the 24, so she's going to get 48.5% of her salary in that situation. And you can retire at any time, generally after the age of 55. Technically you can retire as early as age 50 if you have at least 30 years of service credit, or you can retire at the age of 55 if you have at least 5 years of service credit. Sure. It is, you can retire as early as age 50 with at least 30 years of service, so you'd have to start working at the age of 20, so that's not applicable for most people. Or you can retire at the age of 55 with at least 5 years of service credit. And in addition, at least 1 year of your service credit must be performed after your most recent refund, and you must have at least 5 years of service credit. So if you took money out of it, it has to have been at least a year after that. And how the factor works, and again, my suggestion would be is to get it directly out of the table, because it'll show you in this book. But what it works out to be is, from age 55 to 60, the factor is reduced by 0.01% for each month or fraction of a month that you are under the age of 60. So for example, and again, this is directly out of the CalSTRS membership booklet, or member handbook, at age 55 in 6 months, when you retire, your age factor would be 1.46%. Now, the key is, between the ages of 60 and 63, that 2% age factor is increased by 0.033% for each quarter year of age the member is over age 60, up to a maximum age factor of 2.4. So the maximum you can ever get would be 2.4%. And how that works also is, there is a career factor. If you have over 30 years of service credit, you get a 0.2%. So what that is, okay, there's that 2% at 60. It maxes out at 2.4%. That's the max, which is up to the age, up to age 63. And then if you have over 30 years of credit, service credit, you can get that career factor is 0.02. And then also sick leave is included in that. You can get, if you're employed full-time, and now this is different than if you're adjunct, if you're part-time, but if you're employed full-time, it is determined by dividing the number of accumulated unused sick leave days as certified by your last employer by the number of base service days excluding school and legal holidays required to complete the last school year. So I think what that is, talking to benefits today, I think they calculate, I didn't ask that question specifically, but I was asking some questions about adjunct. I think Los Rios bases a professor on 174 days. I think that's what they do. Whereas unused sick leave credit for adjunct, you have to have 1,050 hours for FTE to be 1 full year of service credit if you're adjunct. Now, some of the ways to increase that benefit, if you have over 25 years of service credit, so if it's more than 25 years, it's your highest year of compensation. So if you remember, I know I erased it.
A single year of compensation?
Well, let me explain. I should say that it is your 1 year final compensation. It is, and let me read what CalSTRS said that is. The highest 12 consecutive months of your average earnable compensation during a school year will be used in your retirement benefit calculation rather than the average of your last 3 school years. So you have to find that number, and that is reported to CalSTRS from Los Rios. So I always will stress in my seminars when I do this workshop that if there's ever a discrepancy in CalSTRS, it's because if you think there's a discrepancy, you need to go to your employer, in this case Los Rios, to make sure. A good example would be, I remember when I first came into this business years and years ago, 20 years ago, the Sac City Unified went on strike, I think for about a week. Well, those teachers didn't get, my understanding is, did not get a full year of service credit because 1 week of that school year they were on strike. So they might have got 0.9 something. So you always want to make sure, because CalSTRS gets all their information from Los Rios. You had a question.
My question is, if you earned more, say 2 or 3 years before you actually retired because you went on a reduced load or something like that, that's the figure that they would use, the year that you earned the most?
Very good question. You beat me to the punch. The key that you want to make sure you do is the 3 consecutive years of your highest earnable salary. It might not be your last 3 years. The key, though, is at retirement, CalSTRS is going to use your last 3 years unless you specify otherwise. So you need to make sure, if you're teaching a reduced load or something like that, that you make sure you tell CalSTRS. I remember working with somebody years ago who was an administrator. She was planning to go back into the classroom. Well, in her case, I lost track of her, but of what she's doing today. But if that was the case, her salary as an administrator would have typically been higher than it would have been as a teacher. So she would have wanted to go back to make sure that was the case.
In our contract, we have the capability of working for 5 years at a reduced load, but you're advanced as if it is a full-time assignment. You get a full year's credit, even though you're not working at 100%. In that case, your highest income would be the year prior to taking a reduced load. Would that be the basis for your compensation?
I would ask Los Rios or CalSTRS. I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction. I would think that's the case, but I don't want to specifically say because I don't know the answer to that question. And that would be there's a very good example of asking Los Rios and or CalSTRS exactly how they calculate it. I mean, it makes sense, and I know that because I know there are reduced factors, because then that's with your contract. Los Rios pays the full amount and those other things. But I don't want to lead you down in the wrong direction potentially. The other thing is, are any of you, I'll ask this, do any of you have, and up in EDC2, do any of you as of right now have 30 years of service credit? Okay. Okay, it doesn't affect. It does with teachers. If you had over 30 years, you get some added benefits. So that doesn't matter for you guys.
But that's going to expire this December 31st.
That's correct. That's why it's you had to have 30 years of service credit by December 31st of 2010. Then you got some longevity bonuses. But since none of you have over 30 years, and I'm assuming up in EDC you don't either, so that's not going to affect your situation. But I have clients that has been a case. Yeah, push the button.
What if we will hopefully have over 30, you know?
Well, it wouldn't apply. It's going away, but remember, you would get the highest year. You would be 1 year of compensation for 25 years. So that's another reason why you might want to seriously consider if you're getting close to retirement and maybe you have 24 years of service and you got a step increase, or miraculously you get a raise in the next couple years or something to that effect years down the road, you might, or a good example of this this is a CalPERS case, but somebody I went to church with, he was a printer for the state. Well, he worked graveyard his last year, and it increased his salary by 8%. Well, in that scenario, he increased his CalPERS pension by 8% over the rest of his life. But generally, as a teacher, there's not a whole lot you can do to increase your salary other than get the step increase or something. But that's where administrators and other people, that's where we've had a lot of issues with pension spiking, and we don't have to talk about Bell, the city of Bell, and all these other places that have done it. But generally, as a teacher, it's a lot more difficult to increase that. But you know, there are things you can do.